You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya Whitner, and this is your NXT update for Wednesday, September 28th, 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we had a newsworthy episode of NXT this week. It was not the best episode of NXT you're ever going to see, but it was definitely not one of those episodes where I'm going to sit here and go, oh, you can just skip it and blah, 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 blah. Nope, we had a lot of development this week, and it's all good. It was the first week of the new tapings, I believe, and, the crowd was into most of it. And let's start here from the beginning. The show actually began with a earlier in the day pre-tape with Mr. William Regal standing in the middle of the ring in an empty arena, announcing the second annual Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, the finals to be held at NXT TakeOver Toronto the night before Survivor Series. He also stated that the brackets will be released on Twitter later this week, and the first matches will happen next week right here on NXT. And in case you forgot, it's a 16-team single elimination tournament. Last year it was won by the oddball team of Finn Bálor and Samoa Joe, which was actually the start of their 10-month storyline. The show began in the ring with Ty Dillinger, the Perfect 10, one-on-one with Angelo Dawkins. Dawkins has lost the vast majority of his matches, at least the vast majority of his televised matches over the last 2 years, while Dillinger is getting closer and closer to that actual winning streak. He's almost there. Remember, I've said over the weeks and months that I don't think people care so much about Dillinger as they like chanting 10. Well, I may not be able to say that much longer because the crowd seems to actually be into him these days, as opposed to only being into the number 10. Anyway, Dillinger picked up his second straight win with the tiebreaker in a short match. As Dillinger began walking to the back, all of a sudden, the greatest theme song in NXT history brought out Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode congratulated Ty, but said that Ty is not a 10 yet. However, with the proper guidance, he could be a 10 one day. And then he said that the number one reason he came to NXT was to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which just sounds odd since, I thought the reason he came to NXT was so CEOs and, multimillionaires would occupy the seats as opposed to the ugly fans that normally occupy those seats. His words, not mine. The fans, seeing where this was going, exploded, chanting Glorious 10. Roode said that he hasn't been here very long and he hasn't made very many friends, so he needs the perfect partner for this tournament. Roode asked him to think about it since Ty was so close to Dusty Rhodes. Roode said the team would be perfectly glorious and stuck out his hand, and after thinking about it for a few seconds, Dillinger accepted and shook his hand. And we've got a team for the Dusty Rhodes Classic, ladies and gentlemen. Backstage, Hideo Itami was asked about his match with Lince Dorado tonight. Itami said Dorado was a great fighter and has great heart, unlike Austin Aries, who's a baby and a coward. And Itami said that he may need to make him go to sleep again. Up next, we were scheduled to see the debut of the first set of twin brothers to come out of the WWE Performance Center in their history, according to Tom Phillips, because, the Usos were already out long before they opened the Performance Center. Anyway, it's the Ely brothers. Yes, Gabriel and Muriel Ely. That is their real names. Well, that's their real names they're using in NXT anyway. Anyway, the Revival came out for the match with the new team. But before the Revival could hit the ring, before the main eventers could get there, Samoa Joe stampeded past them into the ring and single-handedly destroyed both Gabriel and Muriel Ely. They need better names, especially Muriel. Anyway, after destroying the two of them, Joe took the mic and announced that the beatings will continue until William Regal's decisiveness improves. I want to put out, again, last week he came out and said that he was going to destroy everybody in his path, and then never showed up again. And then this week he shows up just to beat up two people that you have never heard of before because they've never had a TV match before. Anyway, Joe, in case you forget, he's demanding either an immediate rematch with injured NXT champion Shinsuke Nakamura, or demanding that Mr. Regal just strips Nakamura of the championship and awards it directly to Joe. Dan Matha is coming next week. It still sounds like I'm lisping when I say his name. Picture Kurt Hawkins' head, shaved bald, and now stick it on Mason Ryan's body. And that is Dan Matha. And even then, I think Matha is still more ripped than Mason Ryan ever was. Ember Moon defeated Mandy Rose up next. In case you forget, Mandy Rose was from the 2015 season of Tough Enough, the season that was so hideously awful that I ranted and raved about it for 10 weeks last year. I used to think that the lone positive of Eva Marie leaving NXT was that Corey would stop acting like a 30-year-old Jerry Lawler every time Eva Marie came out. Well, unfortunately, Corey has now fallen in love with Mandy Rose and now gives every over-the-top swoon that he ever did for Eva Marie now for Mandy Rose. Mandy punched Ember in the face, so Ember kicked her very hard and gave her a springboard crossbody for a near fall. Mandy did shake it off and hit a really nice bicycle knee to the face, but Ember Moon picked up yet another win with her finisher, which is, it starts off like a buff blockbuster, but turns into a Stone Cold Stunner. It looks better than John Cena's Springboard Stunner ever did. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were backstage, saying that they were thrilled and felt good about sending the Revival running away at the Cruiserweight Classic Live finale, but they have a checklist that needs to be finalized. They first want to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, since that's how they got into NXT last year. They also want to beat the Revival, which technically they've already done, and they also want to win the NXT Tag Team Championships. Sanity is coming, which, can be good news, especially for people who are not sane. The Authors of Pain defeated Jesus Yurnet and Jonathan Cruz. Not focused on were the jobbers two-sweeting each other at the sound of the bell. Jesus needed Jesus in this one, as the AOP just destroyed him and his partner. Rezar heaved Cruz out of the ring and pinned Jesus with the side Russian leg sweep clothesline combo. It took almost 4 months, but Paul Ellering finally cut a promo. Paul Ellering, one of the great promos of the day, he said one word in 4 months, and now he finally got to speak again. And he let us know that the first chapter began with the arrival, The next chapter will unleash a plethora of pain, and for now, that's all we need to know. A small number of people randomly yelled "what" and "you suck" at him. Backstage, William Regal informed us he had no update regarding Shinsuke Nakamura. He was about to talk about the teams in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, despite earlier saying that he was going to do so on Twitter later on this week, when Blake and Murphy bursted into his office and began arguing with each other over whether or not they were a team again. Mr. Regal sent them on their way to figure that out, and that was that. Remember how Liv Morgan for the last 2 weeks has been, demanding a match with Asuka and begging for it and all this other crap? Well, Asuka pinned her in about 20, or didn't pin her, Asuka submitted her in about 20 seconds with an arm breaker. On a positive note, Liv Morgan did get in a drop kick. After the match, by the way, Asuka declared that nobody is ready for Asuka. Despite not having the brackets available, they did announce that next week the first match for the Dusty Rhodes Classic is the Revival versus Cedric Alexander and Andrade Cien Almas. And then the main event, Hideo Itami versus Lince Dorado. This is a really good match, and Itami continues the streak of having good matches since he came back. Dorado looked really good here as well, and this match was a perfect blend of the two men's respective styles. Itami at one point hit a top rope clothesline from more than halfway across the ring, and another time Dorado came off the ropes with something and connected instead with a hard kick from Itami. Itami teased to go to sleep and then held his fingers an inch apart. Dorado made his comeback and missed a picture-perfect shooting star press. Better than Evan Bourne's, better than anything that Kidman ever did. Itami hit the Yakuza kick and the corner drop kick before hitting the go-to sleep and picking up the win. After the match, Itami was celebrating his victory when Austin Aries ran in and attacked Itami. It took 6 weeks, but Aries is finally on the attack after Brooklyn. Itami reversed an Irish whip, but Aries grabbed the ropes and ran away yet again. So that does it for this week. Will Aries ever step up and face Itami like a man? We may find out next week. But until then, thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again in 7 days.